Hey, and welcome back to the Knitting Mamas podcast. After we had a 2-week break, we are back with another episode of some really awesome practical tips for you. So I would suggest to get out a notepad and pen to jot some of the stuff down. I have 3 hacks for you today that will help you save time so that you can get back to being creative and do more of the things you love. Let's dive in. Hey there, Mama. Welcome to the Knitting Mamas podcast. If you're a mom who's tired of feeling exhausted and longing for some well-deserved self-care and rest, you are in the right place. I know that finding time for yourself as a busy mom can feel like an impossible puzzle. But guess what? You don't have to compromise anymore. Hi, I'm your host, Nadine Medina, and just like you, I am a mom, wife, and also a happy knitter. Over my 15 years of motherhood, I have been on a journey to discover how to truly recharge without the guilt and the never-ending quest for perfection. The secret? It's all about progress, not perfection. By focusing on simple routines, natural wellness solutions, and the cozy art of knitting, I found the path to feeling whole and content. And on this podcast, I am sharing it all with you so you can do the same. Are you ready to find simple solutions to set yourself free from mom guilt, to take more time for yourself to truly rest, and to use your knitting skills for a mindful routine that creates space in your life so you can breathe easier? Let's take a deep breath, grab those knitting needles, and say goodbye to mom stress. Together, we'll create a supportive community that encourages you to prioritize self-care while juggling all your responsibilities. Sound good? Let's do this. Hey mamas, and welcome back to another week on the Knitting Mamas podcast. I'm so excited to be back here with you, hanging out, talking about all things creative, knitting, making time for yourself, having that downtime, and enjoying yourself without spreading ourselves too thin. And with that said, today's episode is going to be full of awesome tips for you because the number one thing that I actually hear from the mamas in my community on Instagram, in the group, wherever we hang out, is that they cannot find the time to do things for themselves that they love doing. Things that help them release some of the stress of the day, and just for whatever that might be for you. It could be knitting, which is, most of the moms in our community actually pick knitting as the thing that they want to do, but they don't find time for it. Or, if you're like reading a good book, but you just always feel like, oh gosh, when am I going to do that, right? So whatever that is for you, the thing that fills your cup, you may not even remember what that is. That's another whole thing that we're going to tackle in a different episode. But finding the time is the biggest issue that I keep hearing from mamas in my community. And I actually created a free workbook and a video just for you to tackle this problem once and for all. And when you follow the strategies that I lay out in the workbook, it will help you free up multiple hours per week to use for yourself and to use for getting back into being creative. Again, whatever that might mean for you, is what you can fill that time with. But first we got to actually make the time, right? And I just kind of made that distinction there. In the beginning, I said you can't find the time, but we have to actually make the time. So there's no finding time because really there isn't enough of it. And we have to very intentionally and very carefully, use our time and divide our time among the things that are very important to us. And it can very quickly happen that we just get sidetracked, distracted by social media, by our phones, by so many things that are not actually what we want to fill our time with. But it happens so quickly and randomly that before we turn around, we've already lost an hour or two here and there. And that just happens to us too many times during the day and during the week, which is why exactly I created this workbook and the video for you. I'm so excited to get it into your hands. It's available now for you to download. So it's a workbook. It comes with the video where I dive deeper into the strategies, but it's 6 very simple strategies that you can apply, either all of them, just one, just 2. Whatever you want to do, you can try it out. It also includes a 5-day challenge, which I'm so excited about for you to use. And you can use it over and over and over to actually, kind of, I guess, deepen the habits that you're about to learn in that workbook and truly kind of hammer it in and create the consistency with it, which is so important too. Because if you just do this like once here and once there, it may not have the effect that you're wishing it had. But if you can find a way to make them actual habits, you have such a higher chance of making this a thing that you are just doing. You're just taking time for yourself and you're not feeling guilty about it. So how does that sound? I hope that sounds like something you are absolutely wanting to do. And if that's the case, you can download the free guide at my website, thenittingmamas.com/free workbook. I'm popping the link into the show notes as well for you, so you can just straight go there and click the link. All right. Now, let's go ahead and explore the 3 simple shifts or strategies that can help you carve out some more time for yourself so you can get to that stress relieving benefit of knitting, of other crafting, of crocheting. I've been recently kind of leaning towards crocheting a little bit more, which I always said is not really my craft, but I found some really cute bag patterns that you can kind of only make in crochet. So that's been on my list a little bit more. And, just to kind of get to that feeling of, yes, I have the time and I'm taking it right now, and this is what I'm doing with it. So, number 1, this is always going to be my favorite tip for everyone who's like, I don't have time. It's put the phone down. I know you've heard me say it before if you've been here for a little bit, but it is the thing that I can't even stress enough, because we are all getting sucked into our phones all day long. And if you are one of the few people who are not having this problem, please share it with us, because we all need that kind of inspiration here, right? I know this is true because I am extremely mindful about my phone, and I still fall into that trap here, there, and, more often than I want to. However, what I've noticed is even when you are very mindful about your screen time, when you have like screen time, what are they called? Like blocks, put into your phone, or screen time limits, that kind of stuff. Even with that, and even being super aware of what that phone can actually really do to not only your time, but your mindset, your mental well-being, all those things, it still doesn't make you immune to grabbing your phone at random times when you're not thinking about it. So what this really means is that we have to continuously remind ourselves that it's okay, we can put the phone down. It will save us time. It's okay, we do not have to go on social media right now. We can take a break from it. It's okay that we're not replying to this message or even knowing what someone just wrote us, unless it's an emergency, of course. It's okay to leave that phone for a little bit and just, have that reminder, because the truth is these things, they are an addiction, and there's not much you can do unless you really put some hard controls, and limits on this device that takes so much attention from us. But I can tell you 100% that when you put the phone down more, when you don't charge the phone in the same room, it will give you more time. It will give you more time. I can't even count the times when I grabbed my phone randomly because I had a minute or two, and I'm like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking, at my social media, I'm scrolling, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And before I turn around, it's been 20 minutes. And I'm like, well, that would have been, I don't know, like a chapter in my book. That would have been 10 rows of knitting, or, a nice cup of tea out in the sunshine. It's just not the same. And it takes control almost automatically. So we do have to be very intentional about it. But that is tip number 1. Continue to remind yourself to put the phone down and use some strategies that you can find, that you can figure out to minimize your phone exposure, and it will save you so much time. All right, on to tip number 2. Create a morning routine for yourself. Again, this does not have to be an insane amount of time, but if you're intentional about your morning and you can only get up maybe 15 to 20 minutes earlier than your family, if you're finding yourself in a season where your kids don't need you immediately, like if you have a newborn, if you have a very young baby, this might not work for you. But for most of us, when our kids can either sleep or stay in their room for just a little bit longer, and you can give them, either a tool like an alarm clock that turns a certain color when they can come out of the room, or you teach them the time so that they know, okay, before 6:30 or 7 a.m., I'm not coming out of this room. There's ways to figure it out so that you can have 15 to 20 minutes in the morning that are just for you. And then you can fill them with whatever you want. Don't fill them with things for other people or things that you don't enjoy. Make sure that you make that time for yourself and do things that really light you up so that you have that start to the day that makes such a positive impact on the rest of your day. And I find morning routines are so, like, it's such an overlooked tool that can do so much, and people just dismiss it and say, oh, I don't need that. Oh, I don't have time for that. Oh, I can't do that. And for this or that reason. And I urge you to reconsider that if that's you, and truly try to have a morning routine that is super intentional and build in the thing that you have, that you feel like you're lacking time to do, and see what happens if you plan it into your morning routine. All right, number 3, my third hack in this episode today is make a plan for your week. I am a huge fan of weekly planning. I've learned that from another podcaster. Her name is Chelsea Joe, and her podcast is Systemize Your Life. I highly recommend that podcast. And she's taught me to plan for the week ahead and not just per day. I used to plan just every day in advance, and it is not very practical. It's much better to see the entire week at a glance and see where you can actually fill in your self-care time. Because I bet, even with all the crazy busyness in your life, and I know I'm in the same boat, 3 kids at home all day, every day, doing school and needing, lunch, breakfast, dinner every single day, driving them to various activities after school almost every day. It's busy. It's busy, and I get it. But if you can plan your week ahead of time and you can literally look at the entire week at a glance before the days roll around, you will find 15 minutes here and 15 minutes there, and maybe even a half an hour here where you can build in that time. And if your mind is in the right place where you can really, truly say, I deserve this time. We've talked about this in the past. I deserve this time. I need to show up great for my family. So I do need this time to recharge, or else I won't show up this way for my family. When you have that mindset and you're embracing that, you will find the time in your week when you carefully plan it. It may not be a lot, but it will be much more than if you're not intentionally planning for it and you just letting the days come and roll in as they go. It's going to be so much harder to find that time, right? So when you do plan for it, it may not happen exactly the way you plan it, but the chances that it will happen are so much higher. So schedule it in like you would literally schedule in a doctor's appointment or a meeting with, a work meeting. Just schedule it in the same way, because you would show up to that as well. So please show up to your appointment that you are making with yourself. I urge you. So those were the 3 tips for today. Let's recap really quickly. Number 1, put the phone down. Number 2, create an intentional morning routine. It can be super short for yourself so that you can take that time first thing in the morning and it really, truly impacts your day. And number 3, make a plan for the week. Schedule in your self-care time. I hope this is something that you truly are going to take into your life and implement. And I can't wait to hear how it's helping you create more time to go back to that thing that you've been neglecting since you've become a mom. Let's be real. This is what happened to me. It took me, I don't know, what was it, like 12 years to realize, oh yeah, I know how to knit and I loved it, but I haven't done it in 20 years. Like, why? So don't let that happen to you. Go ahead and get the other strategies that I'm laying out in my new free workbook at thenittingmamas.com/free workbook. And again, I can't wait to hear how you're implementing these into your life, how they're going to impact you, how much more time you're making, and what you're doing with your time. So come on and share it over on Instagram. You can tag me at thenittingmamas, or you can also come into our free Facebook community. I will put the link in the show notes, and I see you over there. Until next week, take care. Hey mama, I hope you've soaked up some great ideas from today's episode. Remember, a happy mom makes for a happy fam. If today's chat hit home with you, it would mean the world if you could leave a 5-star written review on iTunes. Your review will help other moms discover our community and embrace guilt-free self-care. Also, if you're scrolling through Instagram, why not snap a screenshot of this episode for your stories? Don't forget to tag me at The Knitting Mamas so that I can shout you out on my page as well. Plus, that way we can stay connected and spread the self-care magic. Oh, and have you heard about our cozy Facebook community? It's a guilt-free zone where we share relaxing routines, essential oils, and knitting adventures, and so much more. Come join us today at bit.ly/knittingmamas and let's unwind together. Until we chat again, take care, Mama. And remember, looking after yourself is not selfish. It's essential for that balanced life. Catch you soon right here on the Knitting Mamas podcast.